Mikasa Sukasa, and of course, as always, I am your humble host, Niko House. We today are going to look at an article that was written by a former Pentagon official, a former White House official, and a current contributor to Fox News. In what has been really an ongoing pattern we've seen of people from the right trying to warn people. Ironically enough, the same thing as a person like myself on the left has been trying to let people know. If you keep trying to use traditional methods to figure out who's going to win this election, you are going to get it wrong every single time. I don't know how else I could stress this. We're no longer in a political election. You do no longer win political elections by traditional means, and you can't measure the possibility, at least accurately anyway, of a person winning a political election by traditional, what do they call them? Anecdotal methods that we've used in the past. It's a different world we live in. This guy, Douglas McKinnon, does a very good job of codifying this. Now, he writes an article talking about the fact that Tulsi might be the biggest threat to Donald Trump in 2020. And you already know how I feel about that. I've talked about this over and over again. But I wanted to talk really quick about this article because now you're not only hearing this from somebody on the left, because y'all think I'm crazy. Y'all think I'm crazy because I be talking. I'm telling y'all, bruh. The one thing I know how to do is predict some damn outcomes when it comes to politics. It's not all that complicated if you're paying attention and your scope is wide enough to include all of the extenuating circumstances. Some people get so hyper-focused on the left, they get hyper-focused on progressives, they get hyper-focused on Democrats. They don't want to pay attention to Republicans or their voters unless they're critiquing them or attacking them. They don't understand strategy. They don't understand how politics, it has ebbs and flows, and one or two events can change the outcome of an entire election. They don't understand all this. They don't know their history. So people who do understand their history know this race is probably a lot closer than you might think. And so I'm kind of glad. I'm glad this gentleman did an article about this. So we're going to take a look at this article together and see what he has to say. So he starts off the article by saying, hold on, let me zoom out a little bit so y'all can see. Boom. Okay. So he starts off the article by saying in 2015 and 2016, Donald J. Trump was either written off as a presidential candidate or relegated to the lowest tier by most pundits and many in the media. Right or wrong? He is absolutely right. And in 2015, I must admit, in 2015, early 2015, I was one of those people. In 2019, Democratic Representative Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii has been similarly written off or relegated to the lowest tier of presidential candidates. If you missed my thread on Twitter, which I'll try to post, if I remember, I'll try to post a link in the description. You should check it out because I explain why this is significant, and I talk about the similarities between Tulsi Gabbard and how she's been benefiting and suffering from the Trump effect. Now the writer goes on to say, little surprise then that in an imprecise but telling snap poll on the Drudge Report, she was declared the clear winner of the first Democratic debate by thousands who took time to vote. She also turned out to be the most searched candidate from the debate on Google Trends. No one paid attention to Trump in the early stages back then, and no one is or was paying attention to Gabbard now, unless they're trying to smear her. But when I say no one's paying attention to her, I mean that there are a couple of people that now casually talk about her, and they give her credit at times. But like, for example, like I covered yesterday, Tulsi literally had her legislation stolen. They watered it down. They gave a monopoly to the corporations on voting machines and gave themselves hundreds of millions of dollars for every state. And they stole her legislation. The name of her legislation, they took it. And they did it while she wasn't even there. They did it behind her back. That's something, and by the way, it made democracy worse. It's worse. It favors incumbency. So basically, if the Democrats take over the House and the Senate, they will be able to keep progressives, I mean Republicans too, but mostly progressives, from even winning, because the audit processes, the processes that allow people to challenge elections, would be controlled by who was in charge of commissions, election commissions at the time. Who appoints them? Whoever's in charge of the state at the time. So what do you think the rules are going to look like if establishment dims? Now this was done because they stole Tulsi Gabbard legislation. And it was done under her nose, behind her back, and that type of stuff doesn't get covered. But if that was Bernie Sanders, however, it would get covered. So when I personally say no one's paying attention to her candidacy, I'm saying it as the people who would traditionally be paying attention to progressives, the people who even at times celebrate Elizabeth Warren, don't pay attention to the degree they should be paying attention to her. And this article is going to explain a little bit why that is, or why it's necessary that they should pay attention. She's a candidate who served her country as an officer in the United States Army while deployed in a combat zone in Iraq, and then another tour in Kuwait. She also wielded her military experience against Ohio Representative Tim Ryan in the first debate when he suggested the United States must stay engaged in Afghanistan. For those of you who don't know what that means, in layman's terms, that means we must stay in war. We must continue to spend money. We must continue to lose lives and take lives away from the people of Afghanistan. That's what Tim Ryan was saying. Is that what you will tell the parents of those two soldiers who were just killed in Afghanistan? Gabbard said, as a soldier, I will tell you that answer is unacceptable, and we are no better off in Afghanistan than we were when this war began. In Gabbard, voters have one of the few acknowledged foreign policy experts in Congress, one who is correctly calling out the neocon war hawks, continually supporting increased U.S. military and intervention abroad, while also stressing that it makes no sense not to talk to leaders of Russia and Syria if we are serious about defeating the shared threat like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Also, more than that, she has also rightfully slapped the ever-increasing threat of nuclear war right back on the foreign policy discussion table where it belongs. During that, scroll back down. Come on, scroll back down. There we go. During that first debate, that's where we're at. A lot of war-weary, disenfranchised voters saw and heard someone who was speaking to their fears as well as their hopes. If I were someone in the Trump campaign, Tulsi Gabbard would be the last Democratic candidate I would want to see on that debate stage. Now, this guy did a fantastic job and a succinct job of breaking down the threat of Tulsi to the presidency. Hold on, let me get to some of these super chats. CJ Fu, thanks for the super chat. Fernando Fernandez, man, your parents really kept it simple. Tulsi just met with rich people and the Koch brothers and Soros, now funding against wars. Huh? Tulsi just met with rich people? I'm confused. What do you mean? What do you mean she just met with rich people? I don't really understand what you are talking about. But anyway, so like I was saying, this guy has a clear understanding of what took place. And he's speaking as someone from the right who saw exactly what myself and others saw from the left, like, oh, snaps, this is actually a bigger deal than what people might believe. Because my prediction, by the way, is that Tulsi will actually win it all. Now, there are obviously exceptions to the rule, like maybe, for example, the Democrats just literally say, I don't care if you got 50%, we're not giving you the nomination. Which is, hey, it's the Democrats. Let's not put it past them. But if she gains most of her traction before the elections start, right, before Iowa, which is highly likely that she will. Remember, Trump also started with a small campaign staff, so he had to focus his efforts and campaign from social media. So once again, people thought the things that he was saying was outlandish, and although some of the things that he was saying were outlandish, calling out NAFTA as a disastrous trade deal, calling out NATO as a toxic relationship, calling out the foreign policy establishment as he's done so far, saying that we need to pull out of Afghanistan. These are all things that Trump was speaking to, and saying specifically that we need to take that money and spend it on the people here. Did he do that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Did he say he was going to do it? And did it help him win? Absolutely. Let me explain something to you. People actually are not that complex. The electorate itself is not that complex. When I say that Tulsi is benefiting and suffering simultaneously from the Donald Trump effect, I mean that. People ignored Donald Trump in the beginning. People laughed at Donald Trump. He has absolutely no chance of winning, especially because people were remembering that Trump did actually run before. He got obliterated. But Trump tapped into something that nobody had tapped into yet, which is basically he's like, you know what? This is the reality TV generation. So I'm going to make these elections a reality TV show, and I guarantee I'll win. So what happened? Remember, at first, obviously, CNN slammed him daily. MSNBC slammed him daily. What did they do to Tulsi? Slam her daily. CNN and MSNBC, Daily Beast, hell, they're about to start giving her more coverage like they were giving Trump. Remember, they gave him like billions of dollars in free coverage? Even Fox News slammed Trump for a long time. But then what happened? Well, the rallies started getting bigger. You couldn't ignore the rallies anymore. Coalitions started to be built on the right. Hell, unfortunately, some of the people from the left started moving over to the right with Donald Trump. Because he kept persisting that his message was one, of working class, for working class people, that he was going to pull us out of these never-ending wars, that he was going to be an anti-war candidate. Was not the case. Got it. Doesn't change the facts, though. Then what happened was that Fox News realized, not only Fox News, but CNN and MSNBC also, well, shit, it really doesn't matter how we feel about Trump. Hell, even if we like him, Fox News, because of them being on the left, or on the right, they realized that there was actually a benefit to pushing Trump, because they saw online what CNN and MSNBC refused to see in the Bernie Sanders campaign. They're like, yo, we can have so many ratings if we just would push Bernie. It would dramatically increase our viewership. Fox News saw that with Trump, and they just said, screw it. Hey, we know he's outside of the establishment, but we're pretty sure we can co-opt him. Let's just go ahead and give him all the love and affection we think we should give him for our ratings to go up. So what happens? Fox News capitalized on that, while simultaneously CNN and MSNBC make a victim out of Trump, because they won't stop covering him. So what are we seeing with Tulsi Gabbard's campaign? CNN and MSNBC they're getting, it's disgusting. It's getting ridiculous. The type of smears. Washington Post, the Daily Beast, same thing. NBC wrote a smear article on Tulsi, same thing. The articles are going to keep coming. Eventually, people take a step back and they say, hold up, why do they keep talking about her if she's only at 1%? If she's only at 2%? Why do they keep talking about her if she has no chance of winning? They're not talking about Inslee like this. They're not talking about Moulton like this. Swalwell, the people who actually have no chance of winning. Why is it that when Tulsi wins decisively so on the Washington Examiner poll, the Drudge Report poll, the Inquisitor poll, and several other polls across the internet, why is it that they say that trolls from Russia are the reason, or from 4chan, are the reason that she won? Why are they dedicating so much time to this if she's not a threat? Well, it's because they know exactly what I know, but they won't tell you what I'll tell you. I've said from the beginning, Warren at this point may be up perhaps a percentage point on Tulsi. in the initial primary states. Maybe. And that's maybe post-debate or pre-debate, excuse me. And they saw this rapid increase of Tulsi's support happening. And so they had to, and of course, everybody associates Tulsi with Bernie. So they had to say, oh, no, Elizabeth Warren's the second most progressive person in the race. She's the one who's like Bernie. They started comparing her to Bernie. Remember, that's when it started, maybe a month or so before the debates. Ruben Massaguah, I'm a troll now? Okay, cool. Right? I didn't even get to vote in those. I wish I did. But the thing about the polls, if you remember, in 2015, what were they saying? You know, at one point in 2015, I believe it was Lincoln Chafee was polling better than Bernie Sanders, because Bernie was only polling at 2% in a lot of polls in May and June of 2018 or 2015, excuse me. He eventually got up to like 5% at some point, but that was after what, maybe July, August of 2015. They were ignoring the facts. They were ignoring the organizing that he was doing on the ground, the volunteers that he had. They were ignoring his popularity. And on the other side of that aisle, they were doing the same thing to Trump, if we're being honest. So the polls are all, most of the time, they're wrong. These are the same polls that are trying to convince you that Joe Biden is leading Bernie Sanders, despite the fact that Joe Biden does not have 1 million volunteers at that, on his campaign. That's just the volunteers. Joe Biden doesn't have, God knows what, probably $25 million at this point, more money than the entire Democratic Party. That's cash. That's after the debt. Joe Biden doesn't have what Bernie Sanders has, and yet these polls are trying to, because they pick and choose who they want to question. They frame the questions in an illegitimate fashion to make it seem as if they are what they call the landlines. The polls that are the demographics that they report on, you sometimes recently haven't even been reflective of all the demographics they actually question. It's the weirdest shit ever. Like they'll say at the top, 3,000 or 4,000 people have been asked in this poll. But for this particular question that we're going to use to write this entire article about, to say that Biden is somehow leading Bernie Sanders, there are only about 400 people asked that question. That's what they do. Polls lie. So, if you know anything about polling, you know that that margin of error, especially most of the margin of error, is being almost 5% in these recent polls. That's disgusting, by the way. Margin of error should never be more than 4%, and it really shouldn't even be that. But, so you're telling me Tulsi could be at 2% or 3% or at 8% or 9%? It's a big ass difference, don't you think? Yeah, you'd be correct. It is a big ass difference. Now, people would probably think that, well, polling is one thing, well, but why are her rallies not bigger? To be honest with you, I'm gonna keep it a buck with you, yo. Because she's not taking corporate money, she has had to ration the amount of money she was spending to make sure that it lasted throughout the campaign. They're making more money now, but do you understand how expensive some of these venues can be? So she holds venues that are reasonable size, that have a reasonable price. Sometimes people donate venues for her to use for her campaign. But make no mistake about it, if you ever seen the lines in her venues or if you ever seen a big venue that she's been in or been invited to, she fills up the room every time. So you're going to see you're going to see things build up. But the thing is, people are going to either, one, ignore it, so you may not know it's building up, or two, they'll start attacking her and 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 attacking her. It'll be mostly from the left, unfortunately. Those same people will be looking at the mainstream because they've learned nothing and think that Warren is the other candidate they should be talking about outside of Bernie. They'll be looking at AOC and AOC propping up Warren and AOC kind of sometimes deciding to say Bernie's name. And because she never says Tulsi's name, a lot of people won't see it coming. But she doesn't realize she's kind of doing Tulsi a favor. Now, as all this is happening, Tulsi will likely by maybe after the second debate, July, probably around August, late August, she will be like that favorite indie band that you wish everybody else didn't know about because you're worried it's going to change the type of music they produce. You want to be able to say like, man, I was listening to them since their first album when they, and they performed in this little coffee shop. And I remember that. That's going to be Tulsi, right? The indie band that everybody loved, but nobody knew about. Best kept secret ever. When that happens, I'm going to tell you, on the journalism side, on the media side, on the independent media side, everybody wants to pretend to be the person who figured it out before everybody else. Everybody wants to be the first to jump on that bandwagon. And they all want to say, I told y'all this was going to happen. I told y'all it was going to happen. No. But they're going to try it. So what's going to happen? As Tulsi shifts in popularity, they start seeing their comment sections. They start seeing the tweets. They start seeing the Twitter. They start seeing the independent polls. They start seeing the right wing and the left wing coalescing behind Tulsi. A lot of Trump supporters. Guess what's going to happen? Tulsi's already got a lot of big Trump influencers to endorse her, or not to endorse her, but to speak very positively about her. I imagine Joe Rogan will probably start speaking up even more. Ron Paul only speaks fondly of Tulsi. Lee Stranahan of Fault Lines on Sputnik Radio endorsed Tulsi. Mike Cernovich loves Tulsi. Who else? Ann Coulter, another big name, loves Tulsi. Meghan McCain keeps throwing praise at Tulsi for whatever reason. I can't believe that. So you're starting to see, okay, this is kind of, she's for some reason garnering the attention from people across the aisle. So now I can increase my viewership by talking about Tulsi's name even more. I can increase my support base by talking Tulsi's name even more. And if doing so puts her in a position, or puts us in a position to better defeat Trump, then hey, all the better. So now all of a sudden you'll start seeing people talking about her. And people will kind of take a step back and say, well, shit, man. I'm looking at all these policies. I'm looking at how people are attacking. Because it's cult of personality, right? It's cult of personality. People cut Bernie slack because it's a cult of personality. As much as I love Bernie, Bernie doesn't get half the scrutiny that Tulsi deserves. But if you knew his record in the detail that I know it, and I've known it since 2016, once again, once you like a candidate, you got to research them because you got to figure out how they're going to break your heart. But if people knew what I knew about Bernie, they would be attacking him probably every day. And I understand a lot of the things that he did and why he voted the way he did. Deception, the intel community, they lie. I get it. But the amount of scrutiny that Tulsi's under comparatively, it's not even comparable. So she's going to continue to be attacked. People are going to start questioning like, oh, snaps. Man, my favorite journalists, some of my favorite influencers, my friends are starting to really talk about Tulsi. Should I jump on the train now? Like before everybody else does? Because now Fox News starting to show her love. Why? Because CNN and MSNBC won't stop attacking her. That's what they'll do. They will be the network that says, fine, hey, maybe, just maybe, if we keep supporting the Democratic candidate that CNN and MSNBC keep attacking, and especially when we talk about people like Ann Coulter, Tucker Carlson, love Tulsi, so it gives them more incentive to do so. We can get their ratings, we can get their viewership, and for at least throughout this election season, we can topple CNN and MSNBC and the like. So then you'll start seeing the right see Tulsi more, and people will start seeing that crossover appeal that Bernie had to a large degree in 2016. Yeah, money is the bottom line for a lot of people. I'm going to keep it real with you. Now, why is all this important? It's important because if you know anything about electoral politics, specifically the Democratic primary, there are roughly 37 open or semi-open primary states where a lot of these people know Trump is already going to win. Trump is going to be the Republican nominee, and they have nobody in the Republican Party to vote for. So maybe, just maybe, a lot of those Trump voters really want to see if Trump can hold his own against Tulsi so they can make their decision. Mr. Broken Ass, thanks for the super chat. Almost no one has made videos on candles for Assange. I've not seen anything on candles for Assange, but I'll look it up. Thanks for letting me know. So the money and viewership can influence a lot in an election, and people don't get that. And 37 open primary states means that Republicans actually have a vested interest in pushing Tulsi. Because basically, what are they going to do? Just celebrate Trump for a year and a half straight? No, that doesn't make enough money for them. Saying like, oh, wow, is this person, she might be able to give Trump a run for her money. Look at what she's doing. Democrats are attacking her. She might be good for the country. Democrats hate her. And then all of a sudden, you start seeing big influencers push. So what happens next? Once they have nobody else to vote for in those open and semi-open primary states, 37 of them, Tulsi somehow, some way scrapes out with 20% in one state. Not why? Because what are these polls telling you about her at 2%, 3%? From likely Democratic primary voters. In other words, Democrats. They're not questioning independents. They're not questioning Republicans. They're not questioning hardcore Trump supporters. The people you need to win, the people that are newly entering the democratic process. They're not questioning 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds. They're not questioning the people who actually determine the outcome of elections. They're questioning people who will give the desired results for these polls. That's why they didn't see Bernie taking Iowa like that in 2016. They may have like a 15% chance of winning Iowa. He gets 50% of the votes. Remember Michigan? Same thing. They were questioning who they wanted to question. So when you do, and this is different, like I said, when you have 35, 37 open primary states or semi-open primary states, and you have no one else to vote for, and you just want to piss off the Democrats, who would you vote for? Maybe the one the Democrats hate? Shit rolls downhill from there, people. It does. These outcomes are not that crazy to predict. If you understand people, if you understand politics, if you understand the situation we're in around the country, like, it's not normal. I get it. But sometimes you don't have to look that far to see how events will unfold in the future. Tulsi is suffering from the Trump effect, where they are attacking her so much that they're going to create people that are so unreasonably dedicated to defending them that it actually will hurt their cause, just like they did with Donald Trump. But on the other hand, she's also benefiting from the Bernie effect, where people attack you on baseless nonsense. But she has her own set of adversity, of course, that she has to get through. And she has been doing a very good job getting through. And it's benefiting her. They're playing all their cards in June and July. They played all their cards, really, in March, in February. The Hindu fascist thing doesn't work anymore. Assad, yeah, we don't care about it. Not anymore. No, people don't care anymore. They can say these things over and over again. They lose their power. It's like with the socialist thing in 2015, 2016. But he's a socialist, he's a socialist. It doesn't hold the same weight when you've been claiming that someone is this, a socialist or whatever, but you haven't really substantiated or explained why his stances are horrible, because they're not. Why do you think they never talk about policies? Why do you think they never talk about when it comes to Tulsi specifically? They don't talk about policies. They don't talk about the things that she advocates for. They don't talk about the legislation she has in the House right now. They don't talk about the off act. They know, because they know once people find this stuff out, it's over. Tulsi won't win because she's a super popular Democrat. Tulsi will win because they will make her a victim. They will attack her relentlessly. The more they attack her, especially because as the debates unfold, she will get more TV time. The more they attack her, people are just going to see her name over and over again. I'm like, yo, is she really this bad? There's no such thing as bad publicity for an unknown candidate. Ask Trump. Trump is an unknown. He was unknown as a politician, and he took advantage of it. And as long as she continues to capitalize and build these inter-ideological coalitions, that momentum will literally carry itself. I don't understand how to stress any more than I already have. Trump won the office of the presidency of the United States of America 280 characters at a damn time, bruh. He won from Twitter. You know how some of y'all get on Twitter at 2 o'clock in the morning on the toilet and just start tweeting your life away? He won the presidency doing that. At the end of the day, Tulsi is unique. And if you're saying, oh, it's 1% in the polls, how about you leave the politics to the people who understand it then? Because it means you don't understand politics. It means you can't look at history from 2 years ago if you're going to use that excuse. You can't look at history from 2 days ago. If you're going to say Tulsi has no chance of winning because of the polls, then let's pretend that Bernie is in real danger of Joe Biden beating him. Really? Let's pretend that Kamala is actually super popular. I mean, she's popular, but not for the right reasons. No, Tulsi isn't like a household name at this point, but Bernie wasn't either. You got to win one state at a time. Tulsi understands that. Go to New Hampshire and see if they don't know who Tulsi Gabbard is. Go to California and see if they don't know who Tulsi Gabbard is. The states that she has concentrated her resources on. Hell, even in New York. Nobody wants to say that nobody likes jumping on the bandwagon early because they want to just promote the bandwagon they're already a part of. It's part of life. It's sociological. I don't understand it, but it is what it is. But whenever someone's coming up, everybody wants to be that person that says, well, I was listening to that band first. I saw that basketball player. I knew he had potential 2-3 years ago. That's what I do when I talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo. I've been talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo being MVP for 3 years now. I said, oh, he's going to be the most unstoppable player we've ever seen. Because some things can't be quantified. Some things can't be measured. And some things we've never seen before in politics. And Tulsi is one of those things. We've seen pieces, like we've seen the Trump effect, we've seen the Bernie effect. We've never seen it all rolled into one. Mixed with youth and her family and close friends, people she can trust, helping to run her campaign. But there's a few of us. There's a few of us in what? 2017, 2016. When I said Tulsi's running for president and everybody better be scared. because she's something completely different than what we've seen. Manny, Trump also did not have to face superdelegates. You're right. He did have to face them, but like not. It wasn't a problem because he had won 50% of the vote really early. So, but I'll tell you this: who decides the election of the independent community, or excuse me, of the of basically any major federal election nowadays? The independent community. Who decides what independent candidates or what progressive candidates get fundraising and things like that? The independent community. So my question to you would be, who does Tulsi keep around? The independent community. Why do you think she's so quick? How does she react so quickly to every major event and with almost a picture perfect response every time? Assange, Chelsea Manning, Iran, Bolton and Pompeo. She never critiques Trump on that with ad hominem. She critiques Trump on the facts. She critiques both parties. Why? Because she sees millions and millions upon millions of people are very aware of how corrupt both parties are. And that's why they don't participate. So she keeps the independent community around her. Hey, that's all I'm saying. Y'all, look, I said in January, I said, who's going to be the most searched topic? It's going to be Tulsi. I said that in January, right? People were still saying back then, she's not even going to make the debates. Okay. Look, I told people in 2015 about Bernie. I also, unfortunately, told people in late 2015, early 2016, I said, yo, if Bernie is cheated, Trump's going to win. And a lot of people are going to start realizing that if you don't you don't have to vote for her personally, but if you keep lambasting her, if you keep attacking her, thinking it's going to help Bernie, you're an idiot. I don't know how else to put that. You are a moron. The math doesn't work in your favor. Bernie cannot get 50% of the delegates by himself. Period, point blank. He can't do it. He has Kamala taking a bunch of delegates away from him in in California. Kirsten Gillibrand will take a bunch of delegates away from him, and Bill de Blasio will take a bunch of delegates away from him in New York. Beto and Julian Castro will take a bunch of delegates away from him in Texas. You're starting to see how that math, Minnesota, a key state for him, a lot of those delegates will go to Amy Klobuchar. They even got somebody from Colorado. I don't know if he'll do that well, but they got him just in case. They are set. They all need, from their states, just 15% to keep those delegates. If they lose every other state in the race, doesn't matter. They got the 15%, those delegates are theirs. 30 delegates here, 75 delegates there, 100 delegates here, another 100 delegates there. You don't think that shit adds up? The only person who will give their delegates to Bernie is Tulsi, and vice versa. Mandy, thanks for the super chat. If Tulsi can win the first round, she easily beats Trump. Second round, with the super delegates get involved. No, it's not I don't know if Tulsi or Bernie will win it. If the super delegates are allowed to get involved in the second round, we will lose. I'm not going to say it's the end of the progressive movement, but woo, that's a blow. That's a blow. I'm not saying it's a blow we can't recover from, but look, y'all, that would be a huge blow to the movement. That's why people are like, oh, why are you so upset at Warren? Why are you so upset at AOC pushing Warren? Because AOC hasn't put in the work to this progressive movement that a lot of us have. I'm not saying she doesn't deserve to be a congresswoman, but AOC got, you've seen the movie. She got selected. She auditioned for the job, and she got it. That's how she got pushed by the Justice Democrats. if this movement is destroyed, she'll still get to troll Republicans on Twitter. She'll still make her money. And guess what? We still won't have Medicare for all. And the people who don't really need health care, they're wealthy or they're fine, their situations are straight, they'll still pretend as if, lambasting and waving your finger at the Republicans is enough to get things changed. If we're not talking about solutions, then what are we talking about? So, if you're pushing Warren, you're fucking over Bernie. If you're attacking Tulsi, illegitimately, and most of the attacks are, like, the people are saying, well, can she clarify this? Can she clarify this? Can she clarify? Bruh, unless you're going to ask Bernie to clarify his stance on Julian Assange, unless you're going to ask Bernie to clarify his stance on Chelsea Manning, on Venezuela, on Syria, on Kosovo, on voting to bomb Gaza, on the covert operations that he did in Syria, or he voted for in Syria, covert operations that he voted for in Afghanistan. I mean, the list does go on. And that's a small version of it. I understand why he made the decisions he made, even though they were wrong at the time. Or they're still wrong, but they were wrong for him to vote for, but he was going off of a corrupt information. Everybody wants clarification for Tulsi, which he's done over and over again. People just choose not to look for them. They choose not to look for the information. But nobody asked for clarification from Bernie. And really nobody asked for clarification from Warren, which is weirder. Because they always say, well, if you ask for Bernie to push for the release of Julian Assange, you're hurting the progressive movement. Okay, but if you attack Tulsi, you're really hurting the progressive movement. Because she's the only one who is going to siphon off enough votes away from the rest of the Democrats and actually give those votes to Bernie. But because of the way that open primaries, semi-open primaries work, good chance that Bernie might have to give his delegates to Tulsi. But hey, I'm fine either way. Honestly, I really am. I think both of them would be great. I think both of them would have each other in their administration. I just think that Tulsi's more capable of being commander-in-chief, which is the most important job of the president. So, that being said, people, thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Make sure you check out the other videos that we just posted. Help Tulsi reach 130,000 individual donations. You can go to Tulsi2020.com, buy a shirt. You can donate $1 and then buy a shirt. Buy a bumper sticker. I don't know, just go buy something. Help her reach 130,000 individual donations. But always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.